Welcome to another edition of Driven to Lead. I'm your host, Wayne Brannon. In this program, we explore the real stories from key executives to find the leadership lessons that drove their success, whether in good times or bad. We got a great program for you today, so let's make it happen. Very happy today to have with us Arjang Roshan, the president and CEO of the Weiler Abrasives Group out of northeastern Pennsylvania, tucked in the Poconos, the headquarters up there, with operations really worldwide. AJ is a seasoned executive who's been a strategic operator, has had a great passion for leading high-performance businesses all around the world. We're happy to have him today. He's worked in North America, Europe, and Asia. AJ, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Wayne. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Been looking forward to this conversation for some time. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about the Weiler Abrasives Group? Very few of us know a lot about cutting and grinding and cleaning and finishing manufactured parts. It's a fascinating area. It's just a critical component, but it's just not something that is kind of top of mind every day.
Indeed, it's one of those businesses that is behind many businesses, but you don't know a lot about. We are a global company. We've got 1,200 people around the globe. We primarily produce tools and devices that help you in surface conditioning, especially in industries like aerospace, energy, shipbuilding, machine building, and so on. The company is a 127-year-old company that originally actually started in Germany and then came to the US. And I am their first non-family CEO. There were 4 generations of Weiler families that led the company. So I'm fortunate to be part of the group.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, do you get involved in the operations all around the world in your role? So you have multiple locations, right?
I do. We have global customers, big aerospace, shipbuilders, and so on. And so we have to have activities around the globe. I get involved. I'm a fairly hands-on executive. We are considered one of the smaller ones in this space. My competitors are typically the big guys. For example, 3M is a major notable competitor, and often we find ourselves in a battle of David versus Goliath. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy that part of the job.
Yeah, I would too. So what would you say is your competitive advantage in that arena? Are you faster, more nimble? Is it value for the money? I mean, what is it that you really find that you can compete a pretty level playing field with them?
Yeah, I don't think we're cheaper. That's for sure. At least that's not what my customer tells me. We tend to be faster. We provide, I would like to think, better service. Our products are every bit as good. So we try to really fill that opportunistic, that arbitrage space where a big company cannot really fill. We're able to do that.
If there's a new application or something, I expect you're faster to market with the solution as well.
We will focus on the customers and really try to provide them with a level of support and service, whether it be upfront helping them with the application. What's really important in my industry is being able to have products available to them because they have major investments typically at work. And if their lines shut down, I know you come from the automotive industry, you know it very well.
Right.
If you shut down an automaker, that's a big deal. So for us, we just cannot afford to have a customer that is not satisfied.
Right. So you must have an engineering team and a product development collaboration team that works hand in hand with some of your customers from time to time, because you got to go in and solve a problem quickly, or you got a launch that got accelerated or something. I think that would be critical, right?
Absolutely. And I think the other part of it is your sales team has to be very much connected with product development to make sure you're really addressing the advanced need of the customer.
Yeah, this is a business that I expect you think of your salespeople as sales engineers as opposed to order takers.
We call them TSM, technical sales managers. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's great to get to know the business a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about you. Did you always have an aspiration to be a CEO of a business and to be this kind of leader, or did it kind of just happen to you?
No, if 25, 30 years ago, or even 10, 15 years ago, you would have said that I'd be sitting in the chair that I'm sitting, I'd tell you, no, that's not, that's not in the cards for me. I
Mhm.
started in the automotive business. I loved cars. I grew up in Detroit, loved cars. My first job was with Ford Motor Company. And honestly, Wayne, it happened by accident. I just continued doing things, developing businesses, and so on and so forth. And it sort of took a natural course to where I am today.
Yeah, it happens that way to a lot of us. And I think it's really a formula for great leaders to just be the best they can be in whatever they're tackling. Learn as much as possible along the way. Be passionate about the business that you're in, as you just said you were. And when you do that, you start to develop yourself beyond your functional expertise and you start to look at, okay, what does it take to be successful as a business? I'd like to say that there's great training along the way, and there's some, and there's mentors along the way, and some of them do a better job than others. But the reality is, I think a lot of executives who have achieved what you've achieved have reached that pinnacle of success because of their own drive and ambition to be the highest expression of themselves as people and as leaders. And I admire what you've done. You've worked in a lot of different places for a few different businesses, and I think the line that you used a little bit ago that you're the first non-family related leader of this company that's 120 plus years old is a great testament to the kind of person, the kind of leader you are. So good on you for that. Good on you.
Thank you,
Um,
Wayne.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, as I told you, AJ, this program is about finding the leadership lessons and the key stories of key executives. And so, what we'd like today is to hear a story. I haven't heard it from you. We'd all like to hear, about a big challenge you had or about something, you had a big win with. It could be a current story or something from the past. Set it up for us. Let us understand the details sufficient so that we can understand what leadership lessons we might find in it.
Yes, of course. I was trying to think what to share with you, and I think the theme that I came up with is the one that I actually preach um, with my own people, and it's getting comfortable with uncomfortable. That's really the theme. And the story actually, Wayne, goes back to when I first got my big break into the executive ranks. I was in my mid 30s. I was working for a European global material technology conglomerate. The company had managed to build multi-billion dollar businesses in Europe and Americas, but was not doing as well, let's say, in Asia Pacific. One day, I get a call from our CEO, and he basically, after exchanging pleasantries, he offers me the job to go and head the region. And this was not a region that I had a lot of work experience with. So I asked him, I
Right,
said, that this is not part of my repertoire. And he
right,
said,
right.
yes,
Not your
yeah,
wheelhouse, right?
that's not my wheelhouse exactly. And he said, yeah. And I said, by the way, that maybe you don't, but my wife and I are expecting our first child. She was 4 months pregnant, and he congratulated me. And he said, so are you going to pack your bag or what?
Uh,
And I went home that night. I talked to my wife. We both realized my wife is a saint, by the way. We both realized that this was an awesome opportunity. I mean,
right.
and it wasn't one that I could pass. And so anyhow, make a long story short, a couple of weeks later, I was on a plane with a couple of suitcases by myself going to Asia, and then a year later, my wife and my newly born son joined us. Um, Now, the thing is, I was, raised in the U.S. I knew about the Asia Pacific region, but I had not really done a lot of business there. So, I was somewhat of a novice. The company, the group of companies that I managed, were consisted of two joint ventures, which are 50-50. Each of them were 50-50, one with Japanese, one with Korean. I'll never do that again in my life. But anyhow, and then a few other WOFIs, wholly owned foreign subsidiaries. And it didn't really take me long to figure out why we were trailing, why we were behind our competition. The joint ventures were like dysfunctional marriages. A lot of fighting, a lot of historical issues, a lot of stagnation and inefficiency. And the WOFIs were operating almost by themselves without really adhering to many of our, let's say, good ways of doing business. And there were a lot of disjointment in terms of business model, products, and so on. And so I started really tackling these things as best as I knew. At the time, again, I'm this young executive, and this wasn't a problem that you could just, brainstorm over a cup of coffee with somebody, or I don't know. It was a complex set of problems.
Right.
And I continued to work on this. And the more I went forward, I felt like I was in this quagmire, and it was beginning to really wear at me. My self-confidence. I had begun, it's gotten to the point where I was wondering if I was really cut out for this job. I was losing weight. I wasn't sleeping. And after about, I would say, a year into this process, I reached a point where I thought, I have to step down. This is, I'm not going anywhere. And so I got behind my computer, and I started typing my resignation letter to step down. And I don't know, surreptitiously, I don't know what, I just stopped a little bit, started thinking about, before, really pushing the send button, what's the consequences of this? I had this son that was maybe a year and a half old. He was just beginning to learn to walk. What would he ask me years later? About, Dad, what happened? Why did we leave Asia? Or, how would I answer that question? Do I tell him that your dad just quit? It just got too hard. That I pick comfort over conviction or belief in myself. What do I tell this kid? And I don't know, the resignation letter almost became like a scarlet letter for me. It was a long shadow. It casted a really long shadow. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, how am I going to tell this kid to persevere later on in life and stay the course and all that good stuff that we as parents like to, tell our children? And I realized, I paused, and then I thought to myself, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Let's just calm down. Let's just, what is the worst thing that could happen if I give it everything? And it failed. Well, I'd get fired probably. Some people would be disappointed, but at least I wouldn't tell my kid that I quit. I give it my all. I failed. It's better probably to say your dad wasn't good enough for the job than to say your dad chickened out, for lack of better word, right? So at the moment, I realized that my fear had grown so much larger than any consequence of failure that I could imagine. And I was really, what I was doing is I was mortgaging my future in this and my own self-respect. So I told myself, listen, why don't I give myself 3 months? And I had a long list of things that I had to fix. And I picked 2 or 3 things out of that list that I thought I could make serious progress within the first 3 months. And I said, you know what? Let everything else fall away. Let everything else fall away. Just put everything you got on this 2-3 things. Mm-hmm. And then I promised myself that I would get up every day. I would focus on this shorter priority. And before I go to bed, I would do everything I can not to let fear get into me. So 3 months later, I was still in a bit of a hot water, but I was beginning to accomplish things. I had a few things done, actually, and a little bit of momentum. A year later, no shortage of challenges still, but I was getting comfortable with discomfort. I mean, it was normal now, getting kicked in the shin once in a while was nothing that would bother me. 5 years later, the region had tripled in revenue. It was becoming one of the most profitable entities in the group. But most importantly, I don't think I was the same person that I had landed in Asia. I had developed a tolerance for discomfort and fear that changed my life. I was taking risks, and in the process, I was really realizing a lot of my potential. I credit this assignment really for everything that I accomplished later in my life. So if when someone says, where did you, earlier when you asked me about CEO, no, I didn't plan to be a CEO. But after this assignment, I felt like I could do just about anything. A few years later, I went on to become a CEO in a public company first, where I completed a successful turnaround. On the personal front, also, I got the chance to travel to so many different places, meet so many wonderful people, and experience so many enriching cultures. This experience allowed me to open doors and experience worlds that I probably would have never experienced or imagined. And so when now I go into a difficult situation, yeah, we're doing well at Weiler Abrasives, but we have our challenges. And when I find myself in those situations, typically it's like a three-step process that I have, and I'll share it. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but it certainly has for me.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so it starts with self-awareness. You got to pause yourself. You know, the word ignorance, to ignore, is a pejorative, but believe it or not, there's some benefit to those words. Sometimes it's your body's self-defense. Ignore sometime the moment that you're in. Pause. Go into pretend as if nothing else matters but you in that moment, and just allow yourself a little bit of space to create separation from everything that is pulling you in different directions. And then if you can do that, go to step 2 and start visualizing. When you're in that moment where you're really in discomfort, when you're in that moment where you really are questioning yourself, when you're thinking about quitting something, or pulling yourself out of that uncomfortable position that you have put yourself in, ask yourself whether it's worth it. Ask yourself, what are the consequences associated with pulling yourself out? Imagine what's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And then really compare, thirdly, to what would happen if you give up that opportunity, because that uncomfortable zone is actually an opportunity zone. Compare that to what would happen if you were to right now pull yourself out of that and forever have this essentially negative shadow that's hanging over your head. I've used this method. It's really served me really well. And by the way, as I say to my people, if you're uncomfortable, that's probably where when you're actually beginning to grow. I don't know many people that grow in a comfort zone. It's usually the stuff that grows is usually outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that was the story that I thought of, Wayne.
What a story. I think one of the best stories we've had on this program. I have to say it's a interesting, complex, and very deep story in terms of the interactions between your own character and your self-awareness, and the challenges of the business that were significant and many, and would have been honestly beyond anyone's capability to come in and just start rocking it right away, even if they would have been more familiar with the people and the region and the culture and the businesses. So I love the story, and I don't even know where to start. It's so good. There's so many things to talk about. We might not touch on all the points. I will say that the thing I really liked when you first started talking is you talked about what you would tell your son. So I would say you got some leverage on yourself, and that really mattered, because when you were writing that letter, it seemed like the right thing to do because you didn't have the confidence in yourself. But then you saw that you couldn't give that situation to your child in the future and tell them that you quit because it was too hard. And that was leverage on you that said, I'm better than that. I know this seems hard. There's a lot of fear, as you said. So you decided, instead of embracing the fear that you were caught in, you decided to reject the fear and do what you could be proud of with someone you love. And I think that's a great lesson, and kind of really stepping back from any situation. As you said in your your 3-step process, be self-aware. Sometimes that self-awareness is to stop, as you said, pause, and take a look at what's really important in your life, what really matters. And I think you did that incredibly well in that situation. And then, you know, I like the fact that, you decided to use that calmer mindset to prioritize and to look at what was really important and then just focus on that. And the other aspect that I often tell the people I coach, I mean, all these principles are things that are part of my coaching curriculum for senior executives. So that's why I was so excited about hearing you tell that story. Um, the other thing is, when things are going really bad, the best thing you can do is put a stake in the ground on some future date. And you did 3 months. Depending on this, I have a number of people come to me and say, I'm going to quit this. I'm leaving this. I'm going to walk out. And I said, well, calma. Let's think about this a little bit. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this, this, and this, and then put a stake in the ground 3 months or 6 months out, and why don't you see where you've come and how you feel then? If you still feel the same way, then you can always quit then. But why don't you just wait to give up at a different date? Or I don't say it's give up, but to really reassess at a future point. So you did a self-assessment. You got control of your emotions by really focusing on the things that were most important in your life, the people you love, and what that would mean to them. And then you use that rational line of thinking to set a target, put a stake in the ground, and focus on things. And when you got to those places where you were assessing how you're doing, I think you said you've always felt that you're doing a little better. Things weren't getting worse. You still had challenges, but at each successive point in time, at 3 months and a year and 2 years and 5 years, all of a sudden you're saying, hey, I got this. And then the other thing that happens is you start getting more and more steeped in the reality of the complexity. And you realize that if someone else were to step in, no matter what experience they had in Asia or they had in manufacturing businesses, there's not going to be anyone better equipped than you to make good things happen. And boy, you did. So those are just a few of the leadership insights that I would say are really, really powerful there. Getting comfortable with uncomfortable is certainly going to be the title of this podcast when when we post it.
And there's a little bit of cheating that goes on in this, and the way I would describe it is what boxers would describe. When you get hit a few times, the toughest hits are in the beginning, because once you turn black and blue, believe it or not, those blows don't really hurt as much. So
Yeah.
later on, you're steeped in it. The
Mm,
blows do come, but they don't put you off of focus, and they don't really screw your plan up if you stay with it.
right. So let me ask you this. So you described some great leadership principles that are part of how you manage and govern your own life, and how you've developed your own leadership style and these principles. How does your staff and your team react to these same sort of principles? Because I have to imagine that you're sharing and coaching other people in your team in these areas. How do they react to this line of thinking?
Well, it's I've part of my career has been going to companies and really doing turnarounds, or positioning them for let's say a more ambitious goal. And
Yeah,
this has been something that I carry with me. This is part of my toolbox.
sure.
And there's usually a dichotomy. There are those that embrace it, because I have a habit of stretching myself and stretching the people that work with me.
Hmm.
Uh, so there are people that really embrace it, and I'm proud of the fact that many of those that have done that are today in much, let's say, um, more elevated positions. And then there are
Hmm.
those that don't, and they usually leave. So it's not for everybody, because you're really making a conscious choice to to put people to believe in people's ability to expand their ability. And this is not something that I can will. They have to want it. Those that want typically get rewarded with in their own future, and those that don't
Right.
typically exit.
Well, you know, I think we have to make a lane for the people who don't as well. I suppose if they want to be a, you know, you look at a normal distribution of the executives on your team, the leaders on your team, you know, you're going to have 5 to 10% who are going to be A players, right? And you're going to have, you know, a pretty big group of B players, you know, maybe 20% of the team. And then you're going to have a big group, maybe 40, 50% of C players. And then you'll have a few D and E players. You exit the E players, you try to make the D players C players. And, you know, not all of them are going to be kind of embracing this kind of how can I be the best I can be? How can I overcome fear? How can I set key targets? How can I apply myself in a focused way and believe that I can deal with complexity and get comfortable with uncomfortable, right? I mean, all the things you said are very powerful, but sometimes, you know, we need to let others know that this is our approach and this is how we're managing and this is how we might be pushing so hard, and it's going to make all of us successful. But find a lane for those other executives who don't quite embrace that to just say, look, we're just going to have stretch targets, and you need to let me know how you feel about those targets and what you're doing to get there, and we'll help you with the resources and the support to help them get there, right? I'm sure that's a part of your team. Not everybody is going to embrace this, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, look, I think that's fantastic. Any other insights from that you'd like to share? Any other kind of conclusions you'd like to draw? Like how successful in a is the Weiler company now since you've applied some of these principles? How long have you been at Weiler Abrasives
Well,
Group?
only 2.5 years. We're really
Okay.
beginning to
Yeah.
transition. So, as you know, it takes a while to complete that
Yeah.
transition. So we've still got some runway ahead of us. But I was just going to say this. I apply this to my personal life. I apply this. My,
Okay.
my son this year, the young man that sort of was in the story today,
Was your
is
motivation? Yeah.
yeah, he's freshman at the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things that principles that I'll also share with him. The first time he had to, be on his own.
Right.
He's taken on some challenging things, and it's one of those things that I think applies not just in professional life, but in your own personal life.
Of course it does. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many of the leadership principles that distinguish a good leader or a great leader from good leaders are those character aspects. You know, the inspirational management of the higher level emotions. You know, shunning the ones that don't move us toward the direction we need to be, that don't serve us, and then embracing the ones that do. So that's true, and that's true in life certainly as well. I'm glad to hear that. So he didn't grow up hearing the negative story, and look at him, he's doing great things.
Let's
Even though
let's
I'm,
just say he didn't hear his dad quit.
yeah, I'm a bigger fan of the university in East Lansing, but I understand you went there as well at one point, so you went to both, right?
I went to both. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go green and go blue. All right. So to start to wrap up the program, AJ, I asked my guest the same question, and it's very interesting to hear the answers. Um, let's rewind now. Let's say it was 2 or 3 decades ago, and your younger self is going to have the benefit of some advice from you right now. It's very relevant to this story, I guess, in talking about your son and how that he was a part of the play. But if you're going to give yourself some advice, your younger self, what would that advice be?
Well, I think I would tell myself to take bigger swings. I um, I think I actually learned this lesson late in life, Wayne. Um, I wish I knew more about how far one can stretch oneself
Mhm.
if the individual can, manage fear. Um, and if I could go back to that young man, I would ask him to be a little bit more daring, to take bigger chances,
Yeah,
to as I said, to swing harder.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, swinging for the fences is something they actually should be doing when you're younger, more so than when you're old, I suppose. But That I think that's good advice. And you know, if we look at the reasons that you would give that, it would probably be because you've overcome so much in your life. You've realized that fear was stopping you from, going after the bigger plays, and maybe even a lack of self-confidence. Your confidence level where you are today is incredibly different than where you were at that point in your life, right?
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. All right, let's fast forward the other direction now. Let's go into the future. You and I will be a little bit older, but why don't we think we're somewhere in Ann Arbor having a beer? Maybe it's before a ball game and the Michigan State Michigan game, and we're talking about the things we're most proud of in our lives. What would you be telling me you're most proud of in your life, either personal, professional, or both?
So first, I would take you up to Houghton, where I did my engineering, my bachelor's. That's my alma mater, Michigan Tech.
Yeah, there you
I don't
go.
get in the
Yeah.
middle of those state and
We'd
Michigan
have to be
stuff.
summertime, okay? I don't do cold weather. I'm in Naples, Florida. You got to remember that.
Hey, winters are nice too. But okay,
Yeah.
summertime, we're having a beer. I think what I would tell you, Wayne, is the thing that I'm most proud of is that I believe I struck a very unique balance that, in my opinion, a lot of people struggle with, and that is between managing and being true to my family while still being able to develop myself professionally.
Hmm.
I think often uh, it's a or statement for
Hmm.
many of us. I think I've managed to make it an and statement. I've been able to. Happily married. I've got two kids. I still, no matter where I am, I try to be home for dinners at least a few
Hmm.
times a week. Um,
Hmm.
uh, got a healthy relationship with my family, and at the same time, okay, could I have achieved more professionally? Probably, but I'm content with where I am in life, and I think that's an achievement to be able to have that healthy balance.
Yeah, well said. I admire that for sure. Absolutely. It's difficult to find the balance, and you're never going to regret spending a little more time with your family when it's all said and done. So the fact that you found, a good happy median there, and you've been balancing that well is really something to be proud of. Keep doing it. You got a few more miles to run, young man. All right. And
Indeed,
so
indeed,
yeah, it's been great having you on the program today. Really excellent discussion. Thanks for that.
been a pleasure.
If people who are watching or listening to this wanted to get in touch with you or your company to find out more, how would they contact you?
Well, I can provide you with my email. It's basically Weiler Abrasives. You can go on our website and reach us through that as well.
Okay, sounds great. All right, AJ, all the best to you. I hope we can stay in touch. I'd love to touch base again sometime in the future. Maybe we'll have you back on the program to tell another story someday. But in the meantime, all the best and God bless.
It'd be a pleasure, and thank you, Wayne.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks for being with us. If you like our conversations, please feel free to hit the subscribe and like buttons. And if you'd like to make comments, ask questions, or even explore being a guest on this program, you can reach out to us via email. It's Wayne@greatroad.com. That's WAYNE at GR numeral 8 ROAD.com. And until next time, always remember the high road leads to a better place.